I still remember the sound, that low, familiar growl of an engine that used to make my heart skip a beat. Now, it just makes my chest tighten. Funny how the same sound can mean power one day and betrayal the next. The city skyline glows outside my penthouse window, the sunset melting gold across the glass. I swirl my coffee absently, watching the foam fade. The scent of vanilla drifts upward, soothing, but not enough to quiet my thoughts. It's been 3 years since that day. 3 years since my husband and my brother made a decision that shattered everything I thought I knew about loyalty. I built my peace on silence, on distance, on pretending that part of me was gone forever. But this morning, my phone buzzed, a name I haven't seen in months flashing across the screen. Ethan Bennett. My husband. The message was simple: we need to talk. My fingers froze over the screen. It wasn't anger I felt first, it was curiosity and something else. Pity, maybe. Because if he was reaching out now, it meant only one thing. The past he sold without asking is finally catching up to him. I slip my phone face down on the counter, adjust the cuff of my silk blouse, and take a long, slow breath. If he wants to talk, he'll find me exactly where he left me. Only not the woman he remembers. 2 years before everything fell apart, I thought I had it all figured out. Ethan and I had been married for 6 years. College sweethearts turned partners in everything. My brother, Ryan, was like his own brother too. The three of us had grown up in the same small town in Oregon, dreaming big, chasing impossible things. For me, that dream was simple freedom. And it came wrapped in crimson paint and chrome. My Aston Martin Vantage, my dream car. I'd worked half a decade, juggling 2 jobs and sleepless nights to buy it. Every inch of it reminded me that I earned something no one could give me, or so I thought. When I left for Europe that summer, it wasn't for leisure. It was an architecture project I'd been invited to, a restoration contract in Florence. I remember hugging Ethan goodbye at the airport, his hand resting heavy on my back. "Don't worry about anything here," he said, smiling. "Focus on your big moment." I believed him. I always did. Until the day I came home. My car wasn't in the garage. At first, I thought it was being detailed. But then I saw the empty hook where the key used to hang, a keychain my grandmother gave me when I bought the car. A tiny silver compass, engraved with her words, "Never lose your direction." That's when Ethan told me. Calmly. Practically. Like it was no big deal. "I sold it, Liv," he said. Ryan's business was collapsing. He needed the money. It was the right thing to do for the family. Family. That word never sounded so sharp. I remember the blood draining from my face, my fingers trembling as I held that empty key hook. "You sold my car?" "The one thing that was mine." Ethan sighed, like I was being unreasonable. "You'll understand. He's your brother." And Ryan, he just stood there, avoiding my eyes, whispering, "I'll pay you back. Eventually." I didn't yell. I didn't cry. Something inside me just went quiet. That night, I packed a suitcase. I left behind the house, the ring, the arguments waiting to happen. The only thing I took with me was my passport and that little silver compass. My grandmother's voice echoed in my head as I boarded the plane to Florence again. Never lose your direction. That night, I decided I'd never let anyone steer my life for me again. Starting over in Florence wasn't easy. It was terrifying. I had no plan, no comfort zone, just one broken heart and a promise to myself. Never again. The first few weeks were a blur of jet lag, cheap hostels, and sketching plans on napkins in small cafes by the Arno River. My architecture contract had fallen through, but I refused to go back. Not to Ethan. Not to Oregon. Not to that version of me who said it's okay, just to keep the peace. One morning, I met Gabriella Moretti, an older Italian architect who'd reviewed my application for an internship months earlier. She found me sitting on the museum steps with my portfolio open, half thinking of giving up. She studied my work, then looked me straight in the eye. "You have fire," she said in her lilting accent. "But you hide it. Stop designing for approval, Olivia. Design for yourself." That became my compass. Under Gabriella's mentorship, I started rebuilding, literally and figuratively. I spent days measuring old cathedrals, nights drafting blueprints under dim yellow light. I learned patience from stone, precision from silence. And slowly, people started noticing my work. My first project was a small villa renovation. Nothing glamorous, but it was mine. When the client paid me, I didn't buy new clothes or celebrate. I wired half the money into a savings account labeled Freedom Fund. Months turned into years. I began taking on clients from Paris, Zurich, even New York. I kept my name quiet. I used my mother's maiden name, Olivia Hart, to sign my designs. It felt liberating to succeed without anyone knowing who I was. There were lonely nights, of course. Nights when I'd stare at the compass on my bedside table, whispering to my grandmother that I was trying, still finding my direction. Then came the turning point. A luxury automaker contacted Gabriella's firm. They wanted an architectural designer to create a flagship showroom, a fusion of art, metal, and motion. Cars. The irony wasn't lost on me. When I walked into that meeting, the scent of engine oil and leather stirred memories I'd buried deep. But this time, it didn't hurt. It motivated me. I poured every ounce of passion I had into that project. The curves of the walls echoed the body of a car. The lights gleamed like polished chrome. The launch night was surreal. My name, Olivia Hart, was printed on the event banner in bold silver. And parked right in the center of that showroom was an Aston Martin Vantage, identical to the one Ethan had sold. The moment I saw it, I smiled. Not because of what I'd lost, but because of what I'd built. People congratulated me, called me visionary, brilliant, fearless. But I kept my success quiet. Online, I still posted modest photos, coffee cups, sunsets, blueprints. To everyone back home, I was just doing okay. Let them think that. Because one day, I knew they'd find out. And when they did, I wanted it to be unforgettable. 3 years later, success had become my quiet companion. My firm, Hart Studio, had expanded across Europe. The new project I was preparing for, ironically, was in Los Angeles. My first major contract back home. When the car pulled up to my new office in Beverly Hills, the irony didn't escape me. Glass walls, minimalist steel, sunlight streaming in over a row of cars in the display bay below. The building itself was a love letter to everything I'd lost and reclaimed. That's where it happened. I was reviewing some sketches when my assistant knocked softly. "Miss Hart, there are 2 men asking to see you," she said. "They said it's urgent." 2 men. I didn't even have to ask who. They walked in looking smaller somehow, Ethan, my husband, and Ryan, my brother. Time had been cruel to them. Ethan's charm had worn thin. Ryan's confidence had collapsed into guilt. For a moment, none of us spoke. The silence was thick, the kind that carries every unspoken word from years past. Ethan broke it first. Olivia, he started, clearing his throat. We didn't know where else to go. Ryan's company is in trouble again. We just need some short-term funding. We know you've done well. Done well. If only they knew. I leaned back in my chair, letting the cool Italian leather press against my shoulders. You came all the way here for money? I asked softly. Or for closure? Ethan hesitated. You have no idea what we've been through. Oh, I think I do, I interrupted gently. You sold something I loved to save something that was never my responsibility. Tell me, Ethan, how's that family-first philosophy working out for you? Ryan looked down, ashamed. Liv, I'm sorry. I really am. I thought I'd pay you back. But things just fell apart. I finished. Yeah, I remember that part. They both glanced around the room, the polished floors, the framed awards, the sleek car model rotating slowly on a glass platform behind me. The same car model they once sold without asking. Their eyes widened as realization dawned. You work for Aston Martin? Ethan asked, his voice cracking. I smiled faintly. Not exactly. I stood, walking toward the glass wall that overlooked the main showroom below. My heels echoed sharply. I own this branch. Every car in that bay, every design on these walls, all under Hart Studio. Ryan blinked, disbelief flooding his face. Wait, Hart? That's you? Yes, I said simply. Olivia Hart. The woman you both underestimated. Ethan stared at me, searching for the version of me he once knew. But she wasn't there anymore. He whispered, "You really did it, didn't you?" "I had to," I said softly. "Because you sold my dream, and I decided to rebuild it bigger." For a long moment, the room was silent except for the hum of the rotating car. Then Ethan sighed, defeat heavy in his shoulders. "We need your help, Liv. Please." I looked at both of them. Two men who had once defined my worth, now standing small in a space I created. "You'll get my answer," I said, turning toward the window. "But on my terms." Their eyes followed me, unsure whether to hope or fear. As they left the room, I picked up the old silver compass keychain from my desk, the same one I'd kept all these years. The engraving still glimmered faintly, "Never lose your direction." For the first time, I truly understood what it meant. They came back the next morning, earlier than I expected. Ethan's tone on the phone had been restrained, almost humble. "We'll take any meeting you can give us," he'd said. So I did. This time, I waited for them in the conference lounge, sunlight spilling across marble floors, coffee set neatly on the table. I wasn't angry anymore, just centered. Ethan looked restless, his once polished confidence replaced by unease. Ryan's eyes darted to every corner of the room, as if trying to memorize success. My success. I let them sit before speaking. "You said you need help. So here's how this works." Ryan nodded quickly. "We'll take whatever loan terms you think are fair." I smiled faintly. "It's not about money, Ryan. It's about accountability." They exchanged a wary glance. "I'll fund your new startup," I said, sliding a folder toward them, "but under 3 conditions." Ryan leaned forward nervously. Ethan stiffened. "1," I said evenly, "your company will run under a partnership agreement with Hart Innovations. I'll be the silent investor, but my legal team will have oversight. No shortcuts. No ego. You rebuild it the right way this time." Ryan nodded slowly. "That's fair." 2, I continued. "Ethan, you'll sign over all joint assets you mishandled during our marriage, the investments you used to cover Ryan's losses, the funds from the car sale, everything. In return, I'll ensure you're not held legally accountable. Consider it closure." His jaw clenched. "You'd really make me sign everything away?" I met his eyes, calm but unwavering. "You already did once. Only that time it was my trust. This time, it's paperwork." The silence was thick. Even Ryan didn't move. "And 3, I said softly, placing the silver compass keychain on the table between us, "you both will honor one promise. Never again use the word family to justify betrayal. It's not a shield. It's a responsibility." Ethan exhaled slowly, defeated. "You've changed." "No," I said gently. "I just stopped apologizing for being strong." Ryan's voice cracked. "Liv, you'd still help us after everything we did?" I looked at him. My brother, the boy who once shared candy with me when we were kids. "Because I'm not you," I said. "Because I remember what it feels like to be left with nothing. And because my grandmother's compass didn't point me back to revenge, it pointed me toward peace." Ethan finally nodded, his voice quiet. "You were always better than us." I smiled faintly.
"No, Ethan."
"I just learned what you never did, that freedom doesn't mean walking away from people. It means knowing when to stop letting them walk over you." They both signed the documents, without another word. As they stood to leave, I reached for the compass, its surface cool against my fingertips. "Consider this your second chance," I said softly. "Don't waste it." Ethan turned once more at the door, his eyes heavy with something between regret and respect. "I won't," he whispered. When they were gone, I closed the folder and leaned back in my chair. For the first time in years, the past didn't ache. It felt complete. Weeks passed after that meeting. No dramatic endings, no shouting, no apologies that rewrote the past, just silence, and then slow, deliberate change. Ryan kept his promise first. I watched from a distance as he rebuilt his business under Hart Innovations, brick by brick, with humility this time. He sent quarterly updates, not excuses, just quiet progress. In one of his emails, he wrote, "Thank you for teaching me what family actually means." Ethan took longer. I didn't expect him to. He sold his house, moved out of the city, started working at a local design firm. No grand gestures, just small ones. He sent a letter once, not to win me back, but to acknowledge what he'd broken. He ended it with, "You were my best decision. I just realized it too late." I read it once, folded it neatly, and tucked it into the drawer with my grandmother's compass. Life moved on. My company expanded to New York. I bought a small home near the coast, glass windows, open air, and the sound of waves instead of engines. One morning, I stood in the driveway watching a transporter truck pull up. The driver smiled as he handed me a set of keys. There it was, an Aston Martin Vantage, crimson red, gleaming under the sunlight. Not the one Ethan sold. This one was mine again. Purchased with my own money, under my own name, with no apologies. I walked around it slowly, fingertips grazing the smooth metal, heart steady. Then I pulled the silver compass from my pocket, the one that had followed me through every chapter of the story, and clipped it to the keyring. The engraving caught the light. "Never lose your direction." I smiled, because I finally understood it was never about the car. It was about the woman who refused to stay broken. When I started the engine, that familiar growl filled the air. Only this time, it didn't sound like betrayal. It sounded like freedom. The wind rushed through the open window as I drove along the coast, sunlight catching the silver on my wrist, hair whipping across my face. And in that quiet moment, with the road ahead open and endless, I whispered the words I wish I'd said years ago. They sold my dream to save their pride, but I rebuilt it piece by piece. And this time, it only drives where I choose to go.